doctor is in.
And the doctor is in. And on the Newsmaker line, we have none other than Jimmie Mesis from PI Magazine. Did I pronounce your name right, Jimmie?
Yeah, messes, like you make more than one mess.
Oh, well, I'm good at that. Anyway, I was perusing your magazine, Private Eye Magazine, and it is fabulous. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been a private investigator now going on my 38th year. I'm located in New Jersey in the New York City metropolitan area, and basically been helping people out and businesses out for 3 decades. It's an amazing type of career, and I've truly enjoyed it.
Well, I've been told that being a private investigator, is basically hours and hours of boredom punctuated by moments of stark terror.
I would say that you're very close. You know, it's super exciting. There's tremendous anticipation, boredom, and then when it gets going, it really gets going. But, you know, that's if you're doing surveillance. It's a lot of sitting around, but when you're out in the field, you're talking to people, you're going to courthouses. It's an amazing thing, the information that you're able to get.
Well, first of all, what caused you to get into this? I mean, why would a guy choose a life of being a private investigator?
Well, you know, I grew up in the age of Rockford and 007 and the excitement there. And actually, I was in high school, and I said, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And make sure that everything I did was targeted towards building my background to be an investigator. I went in the Marine Corps, got out, and became a private investigator at 20 years old.
Well, Semper Fi, Marine. I appreciate that.
Hoorah.
So that's all you've been doing. Now, see, I have on my show on a regular basis, I have Amber Kamek. She's a local private investigator.
Right.
And a young female, and she got involved in high school because her specialty is missing persons. One of her friends disappeared, and the cops wouldn't do anything about it. And so she took it upon herself, and that's how she got involved. But I was really excited to find out that you were going to be on the show. And, of course, my show is sponsored by selfdefensefund.com, and they are the ones that are bringing this segment to us. So you've been doing this for 38 years, and now you've got a magazine, Private Eye Magazine, PI Magazine. How did that come about?
Basically, in 2002, there was a newsletter magazine. It really wasn't a magazine. It was more like a newsletter, one color. And I called the owner up one day, and I said, listen, this is kind of embarrassing for a trade magazine for the profession. May I make some suggestions? And he said, well, if you think you can do a better job, why don't you do it? And I said, well, if I owned it, I would. I bought him out. And that's how the magazine started, and we just published our 150th issue. We're bi-monthly, and basically our readers are licensed PIs, people that want to be PIs, and law enforcement.
Well, like I said, I was looking it over, and it just looked fabulously interesting. How much is a subscription? I might as well ask that.
The subscriptions are for $39, and what's kind of unique is you get 6 issues for the year, but then you're able to get the digital subscription for free, which allows you to see all of the digital back issues. So you're getting 6 print, but then you get to see all the back issues. And again, like we have 150 magazines, so there's a lot of content in there, a lot of good reference.
And for all you guys that are interested in a career change, I'm looking at it here, and there's a Learn How to Become a Private Investigator link. So you guys are actually doing a lot of things along those lines. Well, I'm sure that being a private investigator has changed over the years from what it used to be back in the days when I was a rabid Rockford File viewer.
Yeah. Yeah, it has. You know, what's interesting is I got the pleasure and honor to meet James Garner. The magazine, we gave him an award, probably it was about 8 years ago, and it was a pleasure to meet him. And then when he was doing an autobiography, and before he died, the writer, his author, called me up and said, Jim wants you to be in his book. And I said, really? Why? He says, well, he never forgot you guys gave him an award, and it was a big deal to him that the PI industry recognized him for being as close to true for that era, so that was exciting.
Yes.
But no, I've seen the technology change from the days of hidden cameras. Before computers, you only had the phone as a tool.
Yes.
And now people are doing investigations on their own because there's so much info out there.
Well, it's really changed a lot. I know that I recall watching like Dirty Harry, and the idea of a wire, of a bug where you could communicate, and they were talking about how limited the range was, things like that. But today, I mean, it's amazing what you can do in that surveillance area.
Well, that's the big problem. That's how I ended up starting a new company. It's called the USABugsweeps.com. And what we do is we get hired by businesses, individuals, and we go into people's homes, business offices, cars, hotel rooms, and we sweep the rooms to make sure that there are no hidden cameras, microphones, recording devices, or GPS trackers on cars. And I got to tell you, Doc, there's an epidemic. There's an epidemic of people bugging each other because the cost of the bugging devices are so cheap that for $25 I can buy on eBay a GSM bug and I can listen to it from anywhere in the world.
That is mind-blowing. Of course, I know we got a place here in Houston now called the Spy Store, and I know they've got a lot of that kind of stuff down there that, once again, used to be you had to be a professional to even want to spend that kind of money. And now it's become very affordable for the average guy just on a whim. I want to know what my wife does during the day, that kind of stuff.
Well, it's pretty common. You have wives and husbands that want to monitor each other, which is all totally illegal. The law is pretty simple. You're not allowed to record a conversation that you're not a part of. And then we have some individuals, mainly men, that'll hide hidden cameras in ceiling vents or in everyday objects to videotape usually sexual activity and happening in a bedroom or a bathroom. And then you have people that are husbands and wives putting GPS trackers on cars so that they can monitor where their spouse is 24/7.
So becoming, in essence, their own private investigators. But I happen to know of a situation that occurred here recently where senators were being bugged by the White House. And they talked about the fact here we are, we're having private conversation on how we want to handle something. And the next day, the Democrats are there with a solution, or something to thwart us with. And he said for the longest time, we couldn't figure out how they were so perfectly able to thwart us every day. Well, it turns out this White House surveillance was not just on Donald Trump, not just on his people, but it was widespread. It was on senators. It was on members of the House, the whole deal. It's crazy. I mean, does that blow your mind as a private investigator to find out that the president of the United States is bugging his opponents?
It's amazing. And what's even more amazing, I'm familiar with all of the commercial products that are available, but when you start thinking about the high-tech products that NSA, CIA, all the different government agencies have, detecting some of those devices are almost impossible because they're designed that way so foreign governments wouldn't be able to pick them up. And to know that our own government is spying on our own people, especially politicians, it's disgusting.
Talking with Jimmie Mesis, and he is the editor of PI Magazine, Private Investigator Magazine. You can find it at pimagazine.com. And I'm really interested in your company, USABugSweeps.com. I mean, where would you go to do this?
Well, Doc, I got to be honest with you. We probably do anywhere between 3 and 5 bug sweeps a week. We're doing apartments, we're doing houses, offices, medical offices, banking institutions. I mean, any business that thinks there's a possibility a competitor could be listening to them. We're out there checking. We're checking to see if the phones are being tapped, if the computers have spyware, malware. We're checking for GPS trackers on the salesman's car or delivery vehicles where somebody's trying to steal their clients. It's just an amazing thing. And to be able to do so many sweeps in a week, and I'm just one of many guys around the country doing the same thing. So when I say there's really an epidemic, there is.
Well, I hadn't went in. I mean, it didn't occur to me when I was getting you on, but yeah, industrial espionage, company A checking out company B, yeah, to get their client list, for instance, and then maybe undercut them on the price. I hadn't even thought about that.
Well, and it can happen to any size business. It doesn't have to be a major conglomerate. We're talking about, what about a landscaping company that maybe puts a tracker on their competitor's trailer, and now they know all of their stops for an entire week or 2 weeks, and then they go to those people and say, hey, I can do a better price for what you're doing. And now, it's targeted, or a company, any type of company where they find or tag a salesperson and they put a tracker on their car and they know all the clients that person is going to. So from a business point of view, it could put you out of business.
Well, the way you talk about this is obviously something that you deal in on a regular basis. So you have companies that come to you and say, we're losing a lot of customers. We're trying to figure out why. How's this happening?
That's usually one of the things. Or somebody will say, we had a private meeting in our conference room, and it got back. All the information got back to us from a competitor. How would they have known? So there might have been a bug in the conference room. There could have been a person in the conference room that attended the meeting that was simply not loyal. So sometimes it's not electronic. Sometimes it's human espionage, where a trusted employee becomes a double spy for somebody else.
Well, do you happen to have any good stories you'd like to share that might be interesting to the listeners out there?
Well, we did a sweep recently of a car. A gentleman comes to me, says he wants his car swept. I go underneath the car, and I found a GPS tracker. And as I'm leaving the vehicle, I turn around, I find another one. He had 2 trackers on his car. And I said, buddy, you got a serious problem here. Who'd be tracking you? And he goes, well, I got to be honest with you. I'm separated from my wife, so I know she put a tracker on me to see what I'm doing and who I'm meeting. And I do have a girlfriend, so I know that she probably put the other tracker on to see if I was seeing my ex-wife.
Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. Yes, I got... What didn't the Eagles write a song about that? 2 that want to own me, one that wants to stone me, and one that says she's a friend of mine. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, that's just one. We've also had calls, let's say, from a doctor's office where somebody said that a hidden camera had been placed in one of the examination rooms.
Yeah.
And not placed by the doctor or the staff, but one of the patients that had come in when he was waiting for the doctor was able to hide a hidden camera, and he was able to monitor the activities of the examination in his car outside.
And so was he monitoring the females that were disrobing, or was
he was monitoring everybody, and that's a problem. Now, Doc, I'll tell you one that's even scarier. We got called in to sweep the shower of a high school gym, and we were able to find a pinhole camera, and then we're later able to identify that one of the administrators of the school had actually installed a hidden camera and video recording device in the boys' showers, and he was videotaping high school football players.
Well, yeah, we've had a lot of problems with homos down here, but this is sort of a rampant deal right now. School teachers and sexual problems with their students. This has become an epidemic. This is not even like a limited thing.
Yeah, and the technology, Doc, has just made it so simple and cost-effective that it's affordable for anybody to buy a hidden camera or a GPS tracker or an audio bug and put it out there, and that's why people like me are in business. But we have to use very sophisticated equipment to find all of these bugs. It's not done just visually. We have to use equipment that can find an electronic device that's either on or off, wired or wireless, as small as a grain of rice. So
amazing.
The equipment that we're using is the same as the Department of Justice, FBI. You're looking at over $200,000 worth of gear to do an inspection, about 15 different items, and then you have to have hundreds of hours of training to know how to use all this equipment.
Well, I would think so. We're talking with Jimmie Mesis. He is the editor of Private Eye magazine, and we're just talking about some of the stuff that's going on out there. I mean, I would suppose that some of this stuff just like attaches to the Wi-Fi network and establishes kind of a virtual link to something else, and you got to try to, how do you detect something like that?
Well, one of the things we do, whether it's an office or a residence, we check the router. We look to see what's connected to the Wi-Fi system, identify every item that's connected. We'll also check the phone lines to make sure there aren't any bugs using the phone lines to transmit the audio out. We check the electric lines to make sure that video isn't running through the power. Similar to like baby monitors, where you can put the transmitter in the baby's room and the receiver in another room, just plugging them into the wall, and the electric lets you carry the power. Well, somebody can do that, and they could be watching it outside the residence. And then you got transmitting devices. So we have to have equipment that not only can pick up transmitting signals coming from the residence, then you have to differentiate between analog signals and digital signals, and the router and the telephone lines. I mean, it's almost like you have to have a big college education with physics and what have you to know how this is all being done, and it changes on a regular basis.
Well, yeah, in the old days, I guess you just had to be kind of curious and want to live an adventurous life. But today, you've really got to study. You got to stay up on all this modern technology to even be able to be effective.
And every time a new bugging method comes out, there'll be a company that'll create a detection device for it, and they'll charge anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 for that device. And people like me, we have no choice but to buy it because there's no other way to detect that particular type of signal.
Because that's what you do, in order to be able to do that. So,
yeah.
So bugsweeps.com is probably becoming a big part of your business in these days.
Yeah, the USAbugsweeps.com basically is, we're busy. We have people around the country that we work with, that we either forward work to or subcontract work to, and I'm all over the country. I fly coast to coast. I do sweeps outside the USA. Wherever the client's willing to send me, we bring the equipment and we do the sweep.
Well, if somebody wanted to hire a professional of your stature, how would they go about doing that?
The easiest thing to do is, just for example, you go to USAbugsweeps.com, contact us, tell us your situation, give us the size of the facility, whether it's a residence or a business, and we'll give you a quote based on the information that you've given us. I got to tell you, it's not cheap. You know, the average house is probably somewhere between, let's say, $2,500 and $5,000, or it could be more depending on the size. The average apartment,
not as much as I thought it might be. So.
Well, you know, it depends on size, and then it depends on if we're checking computers and routers and cars. We charge extra for all those items, so it can get up there, Doc.
Well, so what's the typical, the average call or walk-in that you get, Jimmie Mesis? What's the typical one?
I would say the typical customer that we deal with is usually going to be a woman. She's usually going to be between the ages of about 30 and 65. She's going to have a fear of being watched, listened to, or followed. Might have been recently divorced or just broke up with a boyfriend. Is afraid that they installed a hidden camera in the bedroom or the bathroom, that there's a GPS tracker in the car, or they might have bugged the cell phone or the telephone line. And we come in and do the sweep so that we can do two things: confirm their suspicions, or at the very least, let them know that the house is clean and give them peace of mind that they don't have to shower in the dark or get dressed in the dark because they think somebody's watching them.
Wow. Well, what are some tip-offs? I mean, if you think you might have a problem, what are some things that you should be looking at, Jimmie Mesis?
Well, I think the key is if people are repeating things that you may have said in private, and there's just nowhere else, there's no other way they would have known it other than somebody having listened to you with a recording device. That's one tip. The other thing about a GPS tracker on your car, if you keep driving or going places and somebody keeps showing up at the same time that you're there, that's sometimes more than coincidence. They're just following you. There's no accidental bumpings.
Yeah, so if you start seeing the same Honda Accord, yeah.
Well, sometimes you got ex-boyfriends that'll just stalk you. They can't accept that you broke up, or even a spouse. A husband and wife get separated or divorced, and the husband's going to say, well, the only reason that she left me is she's probably going to be having an affair with another guy, so I have to know who this other person is. And the husband, the ex, will stalk her to see who that person is. So there's a lot of stalking involved here. There's a lot of video voyeurism, and basically all of it's illegal.
Wow. Well, I mean, you've been doing this a long time. What changes have you noticed over the period? I mean, from what it was when you started to what it is today.
Years ago, bugging devices were unheard of. They were super expensive. Video cameras cost thousands of dollars. Transmitters and tracking devices cost more than $2,000, and the size they were all really big. Now you can buy a hidden camera on eBay for $26 and connect it to a little transmitter and connect it to a router, and you can watch that camera anywhere in the world. GPS trackers are selling for less than $100, and they'll be tracking you 24/7. Audio bugs you can buy online for $15 to $20, and you can listen to them from anywhere in the world. So the cost of the bugging devices are so cheap that it's affordable for anyone.
Wow. But if you think you got a problem, you'd probably be better off to hire a professional like yourself as opposed to trying to do it yourself.
This is an area where I'm going to tell people you cannot find a hidden camera that the opening is as small as the pinhole lens, less than 1/16 of an inch in diameter. We're talking a hole smaller than the thread hole of a button. Wow. And a GPS tracker can be hidden underneath the dash, and you're not going to be able to find it unless you're using electronics. And here's something I'd like to warn your listeners.
Okay.
Be careful, because one of the things that I've been finding is if the private investigator industry is an interesting industry, but you got a lot of PIs out there that are using cheap spy shop equipment. They might have spent $300 or $400, and they're going to say, "Oh, I'll sweep your house, and I'll be able to find anything that's in there with some little handheld device with a little antenna." Well, that's not true, because if the device isn't transmitting a signal, you're never going to find it. If it's a recorder, you're never going to find it. If it's connected to the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth, you're never going to find it. So people have to be careful. So I would recommend, if people want to get more information, go to our website, usabugsweeps.com, and there's a warning that they can read, and it tells people what to look for, and it also tells people what questions they should be asking someone that they might want to hire to do a bug sweep.
Yeah, first thing that pops up when I go there is yachts and aircrafts.
Well, we do private aircraft. We do jets. We do yachts. We do penthouses, summer homes, regular cars, fancy cars, RVs. You'd be surprised if somebody wants to listen or see what's going on. They can bug any device that you own, any type of motor vehicle that you have.
Well, yeah, and like you're showing here, the hidden camera, these things are the size of a quarter.
Or smaller.
That's pretty easy to hide. Or smaller.
Yeah.
Well, I did hear you mention something like grain of rice earlier on in the show.
Well, there are devices out there like RFID tags that people could have put on something. By the way, Doc, that's another thing. I get phone calls from people. They want me to check up their body. They want me to scan their body because they think that somewhere along the line while they were sleeping, somebody might have injected an RFID tag in their body that they're being tracked. And, sometimes some of these people, the elevator doesn't go to the top floor, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, but somebody else said, just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean they aren't after me.
No, and I got to tell you, I've had some people that have called, and they don't sound very straight, and then the next thing you do is you do a sweep, and you find out that they really were a targeted individual, and we find the evidence of it.
Well, also, I happen to know that they've got some stuff now. Of course, this, I think, would probably be, getting into the NSA variety, CIA stuff, but where they can actually blast your body with little trackers that are like microscopic confetti.
Well, there's a lot of things on the internet that I can't say whether or not they're real or not real. And if they were real, trust me, you got to be one hell of a targeted individual for the government to want to utilize probably a $20,000 device on you. They're not going to do that unless there's a specific reason. So you're talking about being a major government target.
At that point, yeah. So that's not for the average guy.
No, I tell the average person who's going to be paying to do this. Like when people tell me, I think I'm being followed 24/7 for the last year, I go, well, who's going to be paying somebody or a PI $100 an hour to follow you?
Yeah, who's got that kind of money, and why would they want to know that bad?
Yeah, what makes you so important that somebody would want to do that to you? So these are things that we deal with on a regular basis, but our main concern is we want to assure people's privacy. We want to make sure that there's peace of mind and that they can go to bed at night knowing that there's no bugs in their residence. And I'm talking about the little electronic bugs, not the critters that actually move.
Exactly. Well, then we get back to Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump come out and said, hey, I've been wiretapped. Of course, using the term loosely. I don't think anybody really does wiretapping anymore. There's not that much copper out there, for one thing. But being surveilled, turns out that he was being surveilled, but it wasn't just him. It was like everybody and half of Congress and the Senate, too.
Yeah. It's, let's put it this way. Government, if they're doing something to you, it's not going to come out unless somebody accidentally stumbles onto something like they did with Trump. And when they're doing it, they're using equipment so sophisticated that it would be super difficult for anybody to even be able to detect.
Well, like you mentioned here, professional technical surveillance countermeasures technicians. I mean, that long title kind of says it all.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have specialized training, and then the ones that really do this on a regular basis, we go to get refresher classes on a yearly basis or no more than 2 years in between, because we got to remember and know and learn what's the latest gizmos and gadgets. And I'll give you an example. Everybody's that's got these new Google devices, these Siri devices, these Echoes in their house that, they say a word and Echo listens to them and answers them back. Well, that's a microphone. It's listening to you 24/7.
That's it. Alexa, turn on the TV.
Well, Alexa's got to be listening to something to be able to follow your instructions, which means somebody's listening to something. So
it's all being recorded. Didn't they recently use one of those recordings to catch a murderer? I heard something about that.
Well, I mean, I believe that the case was that the device did record, but it was a matter of whether or not the company that manufactured the product was willing to give them access to the recording.
Well, that's going to be interesting. Of course, we're seeing these massive changes. How about the World Investigators Conference? Tell me about that.
That's a conference that we put on every 5 years, and we just did one in Conroe, Texas, in your backyard there.
Oh, man, I wish I hadn't missed that.
Yeah, and we had PIs from all over the country and several from outside the United States. And we had some great speakers. They come in and they constantly training investigators on the latest methods of investigative and also the tools that are out there. There's all new PI tools that come out on a regular basis, whether they be databases or actual hardware. And PIs go to these conferences to learn, hey, what tools can I use to help my clients?
Well, I'm on usabugsweeps.com, and you guys got a lot of links of interesting things there. But I would suppose at a conference like that, I mean, you get some of the best from around the world that would come to a conference like that. Yeah, we've had, over the years, we've had John Walsh from America's Most Wanted. He's a friend. I've known him for over 30 years. We've had F. Lee Bailey, world-famous attorney from the O.J. Simpson case that many people might remember. He's still kicking around. And, I mean, just a number of people that are just experts in the field that come to our conferences, and they're just constantly training our PIs. And I got to give credit to the PIs that attend the conferences, because they're showing that they've made a commitment to the career and that they've made a commitment that no matter how many years I've been in the business, there's always something I can learn, and they're always learning. Well, it's kind of like that in my audio video business. We have to go to a lot of these things because, like your business, they've always got something new and different that we need to know about. And for us, by the way, that's installing Alexa for everybody. That's
Yeah, right?
that's the hot ticket. Frank asked the question. He said, are there certain tools that only a licensed private investigator would have access to?
The answer to that is no. Anybody can buy the tools that I use, but let's just say that probably some of the cheapest tools I use cost somewhere between 10 and 20,000, and some of the tools I use start at 50,000. So the price kind of restricts who's going to be using the tools because they're not going to be able to afford it.
Well, then that would tend to mean to me that there are some cases if you think you have a real problem, you're not going to want to go with the low bidder on the private eye thing. You're going to need to go with somebody that has the wherewithal to really be able to do a thorough investigation.
You know, Doc, I'll use this analogy that I use with people. When you have something wrong with your body and you know you're not feeling good, you can go to a general practitioner and he might, use the stethoscope and check your heart and what have you. But when you have a serious problem and you need a brain surgeon, you have to have the MRI, the CAT scan machine. You have to have all the different machines to be able to check out what's going on. And that's basically what I am. I'm like the neurosurgeon of debugging. When I go to somebody's house, I'm not doing an MRI on a part of a body. I have to do an electronic sweep on the entire residence. And it's a lot of work, and it requires very specialized equipment to not only do the test, but then to be able to interpret the results of what those tests are showing me.
Indeed. Well, Jimmie Mesis, this show reaches worldwide. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you personally, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way to reach me is by email, Jim, J-I-M, at USABugSweeps.com. That's J-I-M at USABugSweeps.com. My toll-free phone number is 888-808-4802. That's 888-808-4802. And we're here to help anybody. If anybody's got questions, they want some information, talking to us on the phone is free. We don't have a problem with that.
Last question just came in here, and I think you kind of answered that, but the question is, what does a sweep cost? And I know you mentioned earlier it depends on the size of the area and how much you want done, but if you could hit that real quick before we get done here.
Depends on the part of the country, but a vehicle is probably going to run you somewhere in the $500 to $750 range. An apartment's going to run you probably in the $1,500 range to $2,500. A house can run you anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000, depending on the size. And a business, you're charging based on the number of rooms, not the square footage, but the rooms that we have to do, and that could be anywhere from $300 to $500, depending on the size of the room.
Well, none of that's astronomically unaffordable. So, Jimmie Mesis, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on the show today, and I want to thank selfdefensefund.com for sponsoring this segment. But this is very cool. I'd like to get you back on again sometime to talk about this.
You got it, sir. It's been my pleasure.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Frank, take it away. We'll be right back. Got a lot more for you on the Doc Greene Show.
You just defended yourself with a gun. The police are called and you're potentially involved in a homicide. But it was self-defense. At this point, you are not in your right mind. No one ever is when they are in fear for their life and defend themselves. Anything you say can and will be used in a court of law, both civilly and criminally. Fortunately, you have selfdefensefund.com. We are the National Association for Legal Gun Defense, and we protect our members nationally in all 50 states, up to $1 million per incident per member. Let us do the talking for you and visit selfdefensefund.com. Any weapon, any state, anytime.
Run away. Seems so very fun, never home.